Good morning, Facebook. Dr. Rose here, coming to you with another Transformation Tuesday. And today's topic, this month's topic, I'm really focusing on mental health issues since May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And today I want to talk about shattering the stigma of mental illness. Some of you guys may think it doesn't relate to you, it's not important to you, but it is. Trust me, if you yourself aren't afflicted with mental illness, be it depression, anxiety, or it could be something schizophrenia, bipolar, you know someone. You have someone that you love and you care about who's dealing with that. And it's necessary for us collectively to just really start bringing more awareness. Be more awareness to this public health crisis. You think about, we live in a society where we've tackled so many taboo topics, everything from discrimination to sexuality to racism, and you know, we force different laws to be passed and different just awareness to be made about these issues. However, mental illness remains one of those topics that people don't want to talk about. And why is that? Because there's too much shame attached to it. You know, people are quick to call someone with a mental illness crazy or nuts or insane or even dangerous because there's so much misinformation and lack of education when it comes to mental health issues. Mental illness is nothing more than an organ's inability to regulate certain hormones, certain chemicals, certain neurotransmitters. The brain is an organ. So when someone is suffering with mental illness, it's no different than someone who has hypertension, whose the organ of the heart is having difficulty regulating itself, or diabetes, the pancreas is having difficulty regulating itself. We have to start looking at mental illness for what it is, an illness. It's not a character flaw. It's not something to be shamed or a person to be damned for. I'll tell you guys this. Last week, I started the whole conversation for Mental Health Awareness Month, discussing different mental health issues as it relates to women. And I can't tell you the number of inboxes, messages that I receive from individuals who right now at this moment are dealing with mental health issues themselves or with a family member, and they have to keep it closeted. They can't share, you know, like people oftentimes share on social media when we have a family member afflicted with, be it cancer or, you know, some other type of disease. And we ask for people's support, to pray for us, you know, to send well wishes. But when a family member or a person is stricken with mental illness, there's too much shame. They can't share that with the masses because it's seen as a character flaw. It's seen as a weakness, and people don't want to be viewed that way. Even in some of the churches, it's viewed that way. Not all, because I have a lot of great churches that have actually brought me in to discuss mental health issues. But far too many of our religious institutions continue to make a person feel less than or shamed or even demonized, if that's a word, for having mental illness. And it's time to shatter the stigma, because if we shatter it, we can educate, we can get early treatment, and we can prevent a lot of these mental health issues from occurring. So I want to give you guys some statistics. In this nation alone, over 14 million adults, almost 15 million adults are afflicted with depression alone. I'm just talking about depression. That's more cases than there are of HIV, of cancer, of coronary heart disease, diabetes. That's more cases of that. Only over 30,000 people commit suicide a year in any given year. And over 60% of those struggle with major depression alone. However, it's not given the attention, and it's so necessary now for us to give it the attention that it deserves. So, like I said, we have to shift this belief system and understand mental illness is nothing more than our brain's inability to regulate certain hormones, neurotransmitters, and chemicals. That's it. That's it. It's a person can't control it. It's not a character flaw. So why is there stigma? Like I said, the stigma is there because people don't understand. It's so much easier to put it off as someone who has a character flaw, or it's something that they did, or it's a family curse, or what have you. We got to get past that. I tell you guys, if I had a dime for every time in many years, almost 20 years now, in another 2 years that I've been practicing, that a person, when I'm getting their medical history, has told me about a family member who had a nervous breakdown. And just to let you know, There's no such diagnosis as a nervous breakdown. But so often it's so much easier to say that because it's more accepted than say the person had schizophrenia or bipolar. A lot of these people don't even know what the real diagnosis is because it's not discussed. Family members want to keep it closeted because, again, they don't want to be stigmatized by their peers, by society, by their community. So misinformation and miseducation or lack of education continues to perpetuate the illness. Because if we can educate, and if we can destigmatize this, we can implement prevention programs. And a lot of us who have predispositions to mental illness can avoid being afflicted altogether if we know this early enough and we can get to it and educate and provide treatment. So it's necessary to do that. When I started undergrad in 1990, the prognosis for schizophrenia was bleak. Pretty much it was you institutionalized the person. When I taught my first college class in 2001, the whole landscape had changed. That 10 years, 1990s, was known in the psychiatric world as the decade of the brain because there were so many developments that occurred during that time that allowed people who were suffering with a lot of these mental illnesses to live lives, to stabilize those chemicals in the brain and allow them to have fulfilling lives. And it educated families and it allowed their children not to be afflicted with the same illness. So things are changing. But keep this in mind, over half of all mental illness begins by the age of 14 and 75% begins by the age of 24. So if you have someone in your life, which most of you do, who, are exhibiting signs now of mental illness issues, I hear a lot of people, like I've heard grandparents will say, there's nothing wrong with that kid. They're just lazy. Or people say, they're just different and we need to get them on a sports team or we need to do that. If you see behavior that's questionable, don't just write it off as something as being lazy or write it off as a person who just needs some outdoor activity. Have a person evaluated because what you could be doing is saving them from having that mental illness express itself totally. Or they can, like I said, make it more manageable or avoid having the affliction altogether. So just as with any other medical illness, early intervention with mental illness is key. But the only way we get early intervention is to acknowledge that it exists and to get rid of the taboo that we associate it with. So how do we destigmatize? We educate. Educate yourself. I encourage and I implore all of you during Mental Health Awareness Month, and wear my green for Mental Health Awareness Month, to educate yourself on some aspect of a mental illness you knew nothing about. Share this video with family and friends. I want to implore you guys to advocate. The only way we've made changes in all these other formerly taboo topics, sexism, racism, transgender issues, is that people advocated. And we have to start advocating for mental illness, not just when there's some national tragedy like a mass shooting or what have you, but now and consistently, and learn for yourself, teach others, and also listen to the stories of those who are afflicted with mental health issues or families that's been affected. I'll be doing a radio program later this month with the mother of the former Top Shelf. If you guys ever watched that Gordon Ramsay show, whose son was afflicted after the show, he developed schizophrenia and later took his life. And we'll be discussing just her journey and how it was so hard for her to get the treatment she needed because of the lack of education that's out there. So I encourage you guys to just take these things to heart, share it with family and friends, be part of the change, be part, advocate because that's what's needed, and educate as well. Thank you guys for joining me this morning. If you have any questions about any of this, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. Join my In Full Bloom with Dr. Rose page or group if you haven't, and Dr. Rose and Bloom page on Facebook, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. All these videos are available on my YouTube channel as well. And there's information about 2017 Sedona Retreat for those of you who want to come and join me for a magical time. Thank you guys. Get out there, have a great day, and live your life in full bloom. Bye-bye.